Chapter 15, so pabalik naman ulit tayo sa book. Tinapos natin yung tangible assets. Ngayon, punta tayo sa investment. So, chapter 15 is about financial assets at fair value. Ang iba pang ano niyan is financial asset at cost. So, yung fair value is depende kung paano siya i-measure yung financial asset. Ang objective natin dito, alamin natin kung ano ba yung financial asset, paano natin siya i-classify, paano ang measurement niya initially, tapos subsequent periods, siya ba yung profit or loss, yung pagme-measure niya, syempre nagkakaroon ng changes. Will the changes be part of, will it be part of the profit or loss, or dun siya papasok sa other comprehensive income? Tapos, alamin natin yung debt instrument at amortized cost. Tapos, debt instrument at fair value through OCI. Meron din naman tinatawag na equity instrument. So, yun is yung sunod siya na chapter, equity instrument. Kasi doon medyo madaming discussion dahil equity side siya ng corporation. Sa debt investment naman, so normally, liabilities, bonds, yun lang. Investments are defined as assets held by an entity for accretion of wealth through distribution such as interest, royalties, dividends, and rentals, for capital appreciation or for other benefits to the investing entity, such as those obtained through trading relationships. Actually, these are not directly identified with the operating activities. Ibig sabihin, yung investment na ito is hindi siya part talaga ng operation ng business. Kung ang business ay nasa real estate, tapos malaki yung fund niya na cash, minsan ang ginagawa ng management is ini-invest niya yung excess cash sa ibang company para meron si real estate company na additional income coming from its funds generated from its operation, yung pagbabayan sell ng lupa. And then makikita nyo yung word na accretion of wealth through distribution, yun nga, interest, royalty. So parang ito yung return of investment in form of interest. Tapos yung royalties, yan, dividends, saka rentals. Purposes, yun nga, accretion of wealth. Bukod sa, imbis na matatambak lang yung cash sa opisina or sa bangko, nagkakaroon ng chances na mas mataas pa yung maging return dun sa fund na yon. Capital appreciation naman, lalo sa land at real estate, na hindi na parang i-held for sale sila pero hindi agad ibinebenta, hinihintay pa yung time na medyo tumaas yung value niya sa market saka ibebenta, so ina-appreciate yung value ng land. Ownership control, so in case si real estate, yung company na yon is mag-invest kay Jollibee, ay iba na lang yung company. Kay company B, at ang ginawa nitong real estate company, binili niya yung 50% of shares ni company B, lumalabas na magkakaroon na ng control or significant influence. Titingnan natin sa mga susunod na chapters. Si real estate company doon kay company B, kasi hawak niya is 50% ng shares kay company B. So, ownership control. For meeting business requirements, yun nga, yung minsan nagre-retain tayo ng fund para sa plant expansion. And yung fund na yon, yung imbis na ilagak natin sa bangko or maiwan siya sa office as cash, ang ginagawa natin, ini-invest natin sa iba. So habang naka-invest yan sa ibang company, yan naman ay redeemable, madali nating nakukuha. And at least pag mag-i-start na yung, let's say, expansion, imbes na 800,000 lang yung pondo natin doon, since ininvest natin siya, nagkaroon siya ng interest na 100,000, magiging budget na natin sa expansion is 900,000. So, yun ang yung meeting business requirements na mas beneficial pa. Tapos, protection in case of interest, yung mga life insurance contract. Tapos, yung may cash surrender value. So, parang as individual, yung mga nag-aalok ng life insurance, investment din yan. Kasi, instead of taking the risk na ikaw lang yung magbabayad kapag ikaw ay nangailangan ng pera through health issues or other accidents, ang insurance company yung tutulong sa'yo. Kumbaga sa insurance company kasi, pwedeng partly binabayaran mo yung risk para i-shoulder ng insurance yung instances na magkaroon ka ng problem sa health or accident, plus portion of your investment to the said life insurance company is being invested naman sa ibang company. So, parang, syempre, yung fund mo kay life insurance, hindi siya naiibo unless kailanganin mo yung maging unhealthy ka, napasok doon yung pwede kang tulungan nung life insurance na yun or health insurance, saka maibo yung fund mo doon. So, habang hindi pa siya naiibo, ginagamit siya for accretion of wealth and nagkakaroon ka ng portion dahil yung fund na ginamit ni life insurance company is yung fund na binayaran mo. So, yun yung alam kong about sa life insurance. The protection din naman siya sa'yo, investment din talaga siya. Kumbaga, in case na magbayad ka ng future expenditure sa unforeseen event like yung COVID or accident, si life insurance yung shoulder nun. Example of investments, so yan yon. Ang hindi lang dyan nagsimula yung word sa investment in is yung trading securities tsaka financial asset at fair value through OCI. Okay. Statement classification, pwede siyang current or non-current. Of course, kapag siya ay current, yung financial asset na yon can be realizable within 1 year. Ibig sabihin ng marirealize siya is mato-turn into cash within 1 year. Pero if it is expected to be realized for more than a year, siya ay papasok sa non-current assets. Iyan naman yung presentation sa financial position. Now, definition of financial asset. So, an asset is cash, is any asset that is cash or contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity, or contractual right to exchange financial instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially favorable, or an equity instrument of another entity. Yan. So, ang mahalaga yung word na contractual right. Ibig sabihin ng contractual right, both party entered into a contract wherein one will invest to another party and the other party will receive the investment of the other party. Tapos, it will comply kung magkano ba yung required return kay investor. Examples of financial assets. So, yun, cash or currency, alam na natin yan. Yan yung barya at bills na ginagamit natin. Barya at papel. Deposit of cash, yan yung pera na hindi siya coins, hindi rin siya bills, pero yan yung certain amount ng pera natin na nasa bangko. Kumbaga, yung coins kasi, tsaka yung bills, yan yung physical aspect ng pera natin. Pero yung monetary aspects niya, yung value niya is parang intangible or imaginary. Kung magkano lang yung nakalagak doon sa barya or sa bills, yun lang yung amount nun. Yung gold bullion deposited in bank is not financial asset kasi siya ay hindi siya cash. Yun nga lang, madaling hindi siya cash. Yung gold bullion, kaya siya dinedeposit sa bank. Ang tanda ko, para siyang mas secured kasi if yung gold bullion is ide-deposit sa bank. Tapos yung gold bullion na yon is meron siyang value upon receipt of the bank. Tapos yun yung pinaka starting balance mo for the gold bullion. Hanggang sa tumaas yung value ng gold bullion. Ang gold bullion, pag na-search nyo sa internet, para siya mga gold bars. Tapos nakalagay doon yung, ewan ko ilang grams ba ng gold, kung gaano ka pure siya. Pero naging ma-pure. Yung mga contractual right to receive cash, ibig sabihin, meron tayong mga receivable, andyan yung accounts receivable, note receivable, loans receivable. So, parang nakuha natin sa asset side na halos lahat ng receivable ay pasok sa financial asset plus yung cash. In case of exchanges, na yung favorable sa atin, dapat ang nakikita natin is meron tayong gain or additional cash inflow sa entity once na-realize natin yung contractual right. Ang example nito is kung bumili tayo ng shares sa isang entity tapos nabili natin siya ng mas mababa sa kanyang market price. Kumbaga 10 pesos per share siya sa market, tapos nabili natin siya at 8 pesos per share. And in the near future, although binayaran natin siya as ganon, favorable sa part natin dahil marireceive natin siya possible is 10 pesos per share. So, may kikita tayo ng 2 pesos. Unless na lang bumaba yung economy. Yon. So, siya naman ay equity instrument. Yung number 3, yung contractual right na meron tayong favorable gain or additional cash inflow. Equity instrument yung tinutukoy doon. Ano naman yung mga hindi kino-consider as financial asset? Una, yung mga intangible asset. Kasi although intangible asset ang financial asset, yung cash, receivables, yung intangible asset na tinatawag natin dyan is yung mga copyright, trademarks, yan, or franchise. Halos papasok sila sa current asset. No. Tapos physical assets, yan yung mga fixed assets, mga PPE, biological assets, wasting asset. Yan. Kasi ang difference naman dun sa intangible asset, although intangible din yung financial asset, walang assurance na ang balik sa atin yan is tayo ay magbe-benefit talaga. No. Tapos sa prepaid expenses, hindi rin siya kasali kasi more on siya, sa future expenses siya nakafocus. Sa future expenditures, kumbaga binayaran natin ngayon, ang benefit lang natin sa kanya is meron tayong magagastos in the near future. Pero wala tayong inaasahan na kikitain sa prepaid expenses. Yung accumulation of wealth, 'di ba? Wala diyan. Leased assets, yan yung pinapaupahan na asset. Dahil yung control dyan ay it does not give rise to present right to receive cash or another financial asset. Leased assets. Classification of financial asset. Tatlo ang classification yan. Una is FA at FVTPL. financial asset at fair value through profit or loss. Pwede siyang measurement for both equity and debt securities. Ang sunod na classification is FA, FVTOCI. Yung FA, FVTOCI is pwede rin sa equity at saka sa debt securities. Tas number 3, financial asset at amortized cost or FAAC, siya ay para lamang sa debt securities. Why? Kasi yung number 1 and 2, meron tayong kino-consider na fair value. And yung nakikita lang natin sa market na fair value, nandun yung stocks, andun din yung mga bonds, may fair value. Ngayon yung amortized cost, ang ina-amortize lang natin, 'di ba, napag-aralan na natin sa receivables, yung mga loan receivable at notes receivable. Pero nung kailan ba nagpahapyaw ng tungkol sa capital? Tungkol sa capital is parang first year, second year ba yun? Yung parkour, hindi ina-amortize ang stocks. So, ang ina-amortize lang is yung ating diniscuss is receivable na ang counterpart niya sa another entity is yung another entity na yun is meron liability. So, yung financial at amortized cost is applicable only to debt securities. This classification depends on managing the financial asset. Una, kung magre-realize tayo based sa fair value changes. Pangalawa is kung yung measurement natin is depende sa contractual cash flows na mako-collect natin. No. Pangatlo is yung may contractual cash tayo na marireceive plus we are intending the investment or the financial asset na mabenta natin din siya. What is an equity security? So, equity securities, ibig sabihin nanggaling siya sa equity ng other entity. So, normally, it involves shares na merong kasamang rights, merong warrants, tsaka options. Yan. Ordinary shares din, preference shares, and rights or options to acquire ownership shares. The owners of the equity shares are legally known as shareholders. So, once na makakuha ka na equity security kay Company A, ikaw ay shareholder na ni Company A. A share is the ownership, interest, or right of a shareholder in an entity. The share is evidenced by an instrument called certificate. So, sa statement na yan, yung share, yan yung intangible part ng ownership ng isang tao sa corporation. Yun namang share certificate, yan naman yung proof na tangible aspect noong ownership natin sa isang corporation. Tapos pag tayo shareholder na, meron na tayong karapatan na makihati sa earnings, na bumoto ng mga direktor, mag-subscribe or bumili ng additional shares, tapos makihati sa net asset kapag magli-liquidate na yung corporation. Hindi kasama sa equity instrument yung redeemable preference shares, treasury shares, tsaka convertible shares, debt. Dahil ang redeemable preference shares, hindi siya naka-fix as preference shares. Pwede siyang kuhanin uli ni Company B. So, yung ownership mo dyan is not permanent. Pwede siya ulit i-redeem. Tapos, yung treasury shares, kung makakuha ka ng treasury shares, yung treasury shares na nasa company is hindi part ng equity securities. Kasi yung treasury shares, again, yan yung na-issue na tapos binili uli ni corporation. Ngayon, si treasury shares para siyang hidden treasure, nasa loob lang siya ni corporation. Walang parang contractual right or possible na accumulation of wealth kay treasury shares. Ang convertible debt, although mako-convert natin siya as shares, as preference shares, hindi sigurado yung pagko-convert niya as shares, which is also an equity securities. So, hindi muna natin isinasama yung convertible debt sa equity securities unless ma-convert na siya and maging share na, maging stocks na siya. Yan. What is debt security? It represents creditor relationship. Ang debt security is creditor relationship, while equity security is ownership relationship. Nasaan yun? Yan. Ownership interest pala. Ownership interest. And meron siyang maturity date and maturity value. Example niyan is corporate bonds. So, yun yung bonds na ini-issue ng isang corporation. BSP Treasury Bills. Ang nag-i-issue niyan is Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Government securities. Hindi ko alam. Parang BSP din ang nag-i-issue niyan through Land Bank or kung sino mang bangko. Commercial papers, tapos preference shares with mandatory redemption date or are redeemable at the option of the holder. So, pinapasok siya na debt securities, yung mga redeemable shares. Initial measurement ng financial asset. Of course, kapag siya ay fair asset, yun ang topic FA at FB, TPL. So, since siya ay FB, i-record natin siya at fair value. And in the case na kung hindi naman siya fair value through profit or loss, yung transaction cost ay isinasama natin sa acquisition ng financial asset. Okay? The fair value of financial asset at initial recognition is normally the transaction price, meaning the fair value of the consideration received. In other words, the financial asset is recognized initially at fair value. Yan. As a rule, yung transaction cost, ikina-capitalize na siya sa financial asset. Pero kapag siya ay held for trading, or kung yan ay mine-measure ng fair value through profit or loss, expense outright siya. Okay? Kapag held for trading, kasi pag held for trading, nakabase talaga tayo sa fair value. Kapag naman fair value through TPL, expense outright siya kasi nakafix na tayo sa fair value, which is already the transaction price. So, yung transaction cost is, I think kapag ang measurement natin is yung financial asset at amortized cost. Hindi kasali sa transaction cost yung premium, discounts, financing costs, and internal administrative or holding costs. Subsequent measurement. So, depende kung anong gusto ng management, pero dapat all throughout the year o all throughout that period, iisa lang yung gagamiting model. Fair value FB, TPL, FB, TOCI. Tinatanggal na pala yung T. FBPL, FBOCI, at saka AC or amortized cost. Kapag through profit or loss, isa sa example niyan is yung mga held for trading or the trading securities. Kasi ang purpose kasi niyan, bibili ka ng stocks ngayon, let's say stocks siya, bebenta mo din siya bukas. So, titingnan mo yung magkano yung presyo niya sa market bukas para maibenta mo. So, pag mataas, ibenta mo siya, pwede. Hindi mo natitingnan magkano ba yung cost sa book mo noong asset, noong trading securities, kasi parang it will be waste of time. And mas madali kung diretso na tayo sa fair value. Pangalawa, quoted equity instrument. Yung parang discussion before, yung mga quoted and equity instrument, sila ay meron din siyang fair value, pero merong certain governing agency na nag-state kung magkano ba talaga yung presyo ng equity, government or PSI. Siya yung nagre-record nung fair value, tapos yun yung parang quoted price. Financial asset, siya ay ang kasama pa dyan pala, ay financial asset na irrevocably designated na ma-measure as FVTPL. So, kapag irrevocably designated, hindi na pwedeng palitan yung measurement niya. All throughout its existence to the company, ang recognition niya is FVTPL. Gusto ko may T. FVTPL. Para hindi niya makakalimutan yung word na through. The irrevocable designation is the fair value option. All debt investment that do not satisfy the requirements at amortized cost. Yan, by default. Ito kasing standards na to is nabago siya parang after ko makapasa ng board. Dati ay may sinusundan lang kaming table, pero parang mas madali din naman ngayon. The standard provides that financial asset is held for trading kung siya ay ang main purpose is benta, tapos bibilhin ulit, tapos bibenta. Tapos ang initial recognition niya, it is part of a portfolio of identified financial assets that are managed together and for which there is evidence of a recent actual pattern of short-term profit-taking. Ibig sabihin ng short-term profit-taking, once na makita mo na kumita na yung iyong investment, pull out mo na agad. Kumbaga, pag naglalaro ka ng mahjong or ng tong eats, disclaimer na lang, pero hindi ko naman talaga kayo ina-advise maglaro ng ganon. Kapag nananalo ka na, syempre nataya ka kada games. Kapag nananalo ka na, hindi mo na itutuloy. So, yun yung short-term profit-taking. Once na kumikita ka na, alisin mo na. Or i-redeem mo na yung laro mo. Yung taya mo plus yung kinita mo. Tapos siya ay derivative. Except na lang kung yung derivative na yon is a type of financial guarantee contract or a designated and an effective hedging instrument. Pag-aaralan pa yan. Parang advanced accounting yung derivative. Tsaka yung hedging. Or parang part ata siya ng liability. Yan. So, in other words, yung debt and equity securities that are purchased para ibenta din sila in the near term or in the near future or very soon, sila ay pasok sa tinatawag na financial asset held for trading or HFT. Trading securities are normally classified as current assets. Equity investment at fair value through OCI. Ang equity instrument is i-measure natin siya at FVT OCI kung siya ay ang management irrevocable yung election niya na yung equity instrument is i-record as at fair value through OCI. And normally, OCI siya kapag hindi intended ng company na ibenta siya in the near term. The amount recognized in other comprehensive income is not reclassified through profit or loss under any circumstances. Kasi, di ba sa income statement, yung itaas si profit or loss. Revenue plus gains, revenue minus expenses equals operating profit. I-less mo i-add mo yung gain na hindi connected sa businesses, tapos i-deduct mo yung loss na hindi rin connected. So, makakuha mo net income before other comprehensive income. Saka mo i-add yung mga items na nasa OCI. So, isang item sa OCI is yung changes sa fair value kapag hindi siya held for trading. Kung medyo mabilis, pwede nyong ibalikan. Yan. However, kapag meron ng derecognition, kumbaga, ibebenta mo na din yung asset after 3 years, tapos kumita ka ng 10,000, yung 10,000 na yon hindi siya papasok as gain on sale of investment. Hindi siya papasok at profit or loss. Papasok siya sa retained earnings kasi para siyang accumulated earnings mo from past years. Okay? Not allowed ka sa held for trading. If the investment in entity instrument is held for trading, subsequent changes in fair value are always included in profit or loss. So, titingnan lagi ko siya held for trading or not. Isa ring titingnan dyan is siya ba ay i-maintain ng company hanggang certain period, more than 5 years, or i-realize din ngayong taon. Debt instrument at amortized cost. So, gagamitin yan kung present yung dalawang items sa problem. That the business model is to hold the financial asset in order to collect contractual cash flows on a specified date, and the contractual cash flows are solely payments of principal and interest on the principal amount outstanding. Yung letter B, ang dinidefine dyan is parang amortization table na may binabayaran yung may utang, tapos part dun sa binayad niya every period is for the principal and part of it is for the interest. Okay? Number 2, yan. If the contractual cash flows are solely payments of the principals and interest, wala siyang another intention to accumulate profit other than the interest which is already instituted to their contract. The financial asset shall be measured at amortized cost kasi gagawa dyan ng amortization table. Yan, debt instrument at debt investment at fair value through OCI. Yan, magiging fair value through OCI naman, yung debt instrument, di ba dito amortized cost, kapag yung sa problem, nakita mo na yun ang business model nila is ang purpose ay parehas na mag-collect ng cash flows, contractual cash flows, plus ibenta din yung financial asset na yon. Pangalawa, kailangan mayroon din is yung merong contractual cash flow, yung contractual cash flows o yung pagbabayad ay payments ng principal and interest based sa principal outstanding. Ang parehas lang siya sa B, makikita nyo parehas lang yung B, yun lang sa A. Ano ba yung gusto nilang ma-achieve? Kapag ang gusto lang ma-achieve is maka-receive ng contractual cash flows, so yan, amortized cost. Pero kung ibebenta din natin siya, since ang word na pagbebenta, tinitingnan natin magkano yung market value niya, i-consider na natin yung fair value at i-record natin siya at fair value through OCI. Yan, it includes selling of financial asset. Dapat nakasabi sa problem. Tapos, since siya ay fair value through OCI, whatever the changes of the fair value for the different periods, pasok siya sa other comprehensive income. Okay? Tapos, kapag siya ay nabenta na, pasok sa profit or loss yung portion na nanggaling sa OCI. So, depende naman yan sa problem. As discussed extensively in chapter 20. Sa totoo, itong topic na to, dito ako part na hindi ko maintindihan talaga. Bukod sa, yung iba naiintindihan ko naman na mahirap din. Pero itong investment talaga, kasi wala siyang, nung as a student, wala akong background, ano ba talaga yung investment. Yung other topics naman, yung cash, alam natin kung ang pera. Receivable, nagpautang tayo, may marireceive tayo. PPE, nakakakita tayo ng bahay, meron tayong school na pinapasukan. So, yun. Ang investment kasi hindi siya hindi siya normal para sa mga normal na tao. Hindi siya normally included or ginagawa ng mga small companies. So, yun. And yung mga may investment, siya lang, halos yung may mga malaking pera, yung meron mga investments. Yan. So, cut ko lang muna. 30 seconds.